What's up, guys? Welcome back to another daily Bible reading snapshot. Today we're looking at Psalm chapter 53, 54, and 55 in the Old Testament. Then we're looking at the end of Acts 27. But here in Psalm 53, what we're going to see is another theme is going to be repeated from Psalm 14. The idea that the fool in his heart says, God's not there. God's not seeing this. God doesn't know any of this. And the reality is that's not just like we said in Psalm 14, that's not just saying that God doesn't exist. That's saying that it's like God's not there. God doesn't care about what I do. God's not listening to my conversations. God's not seeing this. God's not seeing that. God's not going to do anything about this. Now, the idea here is that's what the fool does. And it says God looks down and he sees, is there anyone that's seeking after him? And guess what? Nobody's seeking God. The answer is everyone's fallen away. They've all become corrupt. No one does good, not even one. And I think this is quoted later on in the book of Romans chapter 3, where it says that people don't seek after God. We're not naturally inclined to do what God wants us to do. We don't want to go find God somewhere. We tend to not do that. But this text says that people are not doing that. But we also see something interesting here, that God is seeking who is seeking him. Right? Think about this. God is seeking, he's looking, is there anyone who seeks after God? And the reality is everyone has turned away. And this is the amazing truth that you did not find God. If you're a Christian, you did not find God. Although it might have felt like that, that's not what happened. You did not find God. God found you. God brought you. God saved you. God convicted you. And all of that should bring us this huge debt of humility to say, I'm indebted to God. I did not get here on my own. I didn't figure this out on my own. God drew me. Any knowledge I have of God, just think about that. Any knowledge that you have of God is God's revelation. That's it. You didn't figure it out about God, because if you got it from this book, guess what this book is? This book is special revelation. If you got it from nature and you looked out and you saw, wow, God must be powerful because look at all the trees and the birds and it's all huge and big in space, right? God must be big. Great. God revealed that to you. That's called general revelation. There's nothing that you know about God or have done for God that wasn't God's gift already, which is this amazing truth, which should cause us to be humble and really be really thankful to God for seeking us out when we didn't seek him out. So that's Psalm 53. Psalm 54 talks about how God is my helper. He upholds my life. He saves and vindicates me. It says, verse 3, it says, for strangers have risen against me, and ruthless men seek my life. They do not set God before themselves. Now, the context of this psalm, which all three of these psalms, 53, 54, and 55, are all from David. Psalm 54 is when the Ziphites told that Saul that David's hiding in the caves. He's hiding over here. He's among us. He's right over here. Come find him. So David's upset at the Ziphites. He's also upset at Saul because Saul is seeking his life for really no reason. But also these Ziphites basically tell on David and ruin his day, ruin more than just his day. But the idea is I'm being pursued, things are bad, but God is my helper. I trust in him, and even I'll offer sacrifices to God. I'll do it with thankful hearts. Amazing the way that David views the situation, because he's looking at God, not the situation. I think that's really the key there. Psalm 55 is perhaps even the most amazing of all these three, where David calls out on God and he says, God, hear me, please hear me. I wish that I could just be with you because things are really bad right here. He references something that I do believe is something historical that we can pinpoint in verses 13 and 14. It says, I've been abandoned, I've been taunted by someone who was my familiar friend. We took sweet counsel together. Within God's house, we walked in the throng, this group of people that were excited to worship God. He's talking about a time when David, about himself, when I was betrayed by a close friend. Okay, there's a guy in the Bible who does this in the book of 2 Samuel, a guy named Ahithophel. Ahithophel was an enemy of David at the end of his life because he turned on David and followed Absalom. But before that, he was one of David's good friends. He was close to David. But when the time came, he turned on David. And that's what hurts his heart right here, because he's been abandoned by a friend. Not just abandoned, but turned against. And you might feel that way too today, and that still happens. That there are people who walk with us, they might be doing ministry with us, they might be at your church, and then they leave and they walk away. And there might be some abandonment. There also might be some backstabbing, which was what happened with Ahithophel. And what he says here is, as those people stab my back, look, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call out on God because I know the Lord saves me. It doesn't really matter what they do. Although it hurts and although it's terrible, I'm going to put my trust in the Lord. He says, cast your burdens on the Lord and he will sustain you. He will never permit the righteous to be moved. And in a lot of those situations when people are stabbed in the back, it's hard because you feel like they did something wrong to you. The answer is not to stab them back in the back and do something wrong to them. The right thing to do is, I'm going to be the one with integrity here. I'm going to be the one who's righteous because I know the righteous shall not be moved. So I can be slandered and that and all that, and that's okay. I don't like it. I don't want it. But I know that if I keep my integrity and keep serving God, I won't be moved. And I know I can trust God in that way. So that's what we see here in our Psalms reading. Hopefully that hits home for you. In our New Testament reading, we're looking at Acts chapter 27, the end of this chapter, where we're going to see that shipwreck where Paul's boat, which again, Paul is given directions to the centurion a lot here. You're going to notice that, where Paul's like, hey, we should do this. Hey, we should do that. For a while, the centurion doesn't listen, but then he starts to listen. They take this weird route where they try to, like we talked about yesterday, they want to leave a certain place. They don't want to stay docked during wintertime. That's going to be a bad situation because they're going to crash, and we're going to see the crash today. But one thing that you might notice here is that Paul was going to die, and you're going to read that. They were going to kill all the prisoners, but God protected Paul, and he protected all the prisoners. None of them died. In fact, every person who was on the ship survived, and that was an amazing thing that God did. You might call it a miracle with a small m. If you've ever read the Partner's Manual, it's like a God thing too. He made it happen by his providence. Felt like a miracle, but I don't think he had to break any natural law to do it, but he saves every last person here. And we're going to see how they run aground on an island called Malta, and we're going to read more about that tomorrow. But it's just so amazing, God's power. Just think about God's great power and control over the ship and over every plank of wood that they put their, that they put all their weight on. Just think about all the details that God must have orchestrated for this thing to happen. It will blow your mind, and it should remind you that God continues to work and is continually sovereign over this world right now. So, thanks for reading. We'll see you back tomorrow for another daily Bible reading snapshot.